We're gonna get this core support out if it hair lips everybody on Bear Creek or something. Welcome back, everybody. Silver Sport Transmission provided us with, at no charge, a 1/4 inch transmission to belt housing spacer, part number TRA 00702. We had to do our cushion measurement, and initially we had 2 3/8 distance between the outside area of the belt housing and the clutch splines over there on the engine. And then over here we had 2 3/8 from the transmission to the compressed hydraulic throwout bearing, and that leaves 0, which is unacceptable. So we got a 1/4 inch spacer here, which puts the measurement over here at 2 1/8. Subtract the engine part, which is X, from the transmission part, which is Y. 2 3/8 minus 2 1/8. You get a 1/4 inch, which is smack dab in the middle of the cushion range, which is 1/8 to 3/8. So we are good to go. We are all in the clear to bolt this transmission up to the engine, which is what we're going to do next. All right, so the instruction manual has you doing something that's a little weird on this next step. And I guess I'm just kind of splitting hairs here, really. Place the bell housing onto the transmission with a couple of bolts. Remember how I said earlier in the video, or in the last video, hopefully I wouldn't have to remove the bell housing again? Whatever. Anyway, they say put the bell housing on the transmission. Put the little rubber thing in the side of the transmission, because this is where the hydraulic line goes through the little rubber thing. Insert the line from the outside of the bell housing with the bleeder pointed down. The bleeder is this guy right here. It's going to point down like that. So if you ever have to bleed the system, it looks like that. And it says tighten the line. Basically, you're going to tighten it up. And now remove the bell housing with the hydraulic bearing and assemble line attached. Install the bell housing with the attached hydraulic bearing and assembled line to the engine. Torque the bolts to the factory spec. Apply pressure to the back side of the hydraulic bearing to insert the passenger side mounting ear inside the bell housing pilot hole as shown below. I think they're assuming that you have their bell housing. I don't have their bell housing, so I don't have this little notch which keeps the throwout bearing in place. I don't have that. And I'm not, dissing the instructions. They are what they are. I just don't want to take the bell housing off the motor again, that's all, because I'm lazy. Align the stud with the, hey, we're going to do some aligning, with the bearing upper mounting ear hole, and install the transmission as shown below. Once the input shaft enters the hydraulic bearing, which would be on the engine, the bearing will align itself with the bell housing pilot hole, which I would expect it to, and everything will just slide right into place. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to try to figure out a better way. Here's the little rubber doohickey that goes in the bell housing, and why could we not just put this in here like this and go ahead and mount up the hydraulic line to the bearing like this. And the reason why I'm doing it with this attached to the transmission is because this little guy right here will hold the bearing in place while I tighten up this flare nut connection. Before I tighten it down though, I'm just going to snug it up with my fingers and see if I can, make my plan work. I'm going to take this over to the engine, see if I can put it in there, and then come up with something that works, and then just take the transmission and slide it into place over there. All right, let me work on this a little bit. I'll be right back. All right, I think I got this thing figured out. Let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do it the way the book says. All righty, we're going to do it the way the book says. They gave us 4 bolts. We're just going to use 2 of them for this little mock-up right here, though. Man, these things are whoppers, too. Let's see, do we have... Oh, yeah, that's right. Can't do it that way. Well, you can, but it's a pain. All right, now, you'll note that this, with the spacer in place, this surface here basically is flush with this internal lip of the bell housing. It's almost like somebody engineered it like this, almost. And now what you do is you snake this little guy in from the side, real sneaky like, and you tighten it down. All right, now we're going to get our boot, which we probably should have done already. Let's get our boot in place. Instead of putting the boot booting somebody's ass, we're putting the boot in the bell housing. All right, there we go. All right, let me get a line wrench. All right, so, okay, it's metric. We'll go with that. But anyway, as I was saying, what you want to do is tighten it up some, a little bit, all right? And then back off. And then tighten it back to where you was at. And then go a little more. Not much, just a little more. Back off again. All right. Now we're going to tighten it back up to where we were. And a little more. Then I'm going to do that one more time. And we're going to call it done. I'm going to make sure my bleeder valve is pointing down, which it is over here on the outside. You can't see it. All right. Now we're going to go. I don't know what the pressure on this thing is. I guess it can't be as much as brakes. It might be. I don't know what the pressure is though. All right, here we go. That should be good to go. I'll tell you one thing, if that leaks, you'd be into it. You'd be pissed. All right, that should be good. Now, what you're doing is you're building a witness mark all the way around the two mating surfaces on these compression fittings. If you just go, oh, tight, and you're done, no, it's going to leak every single time. This is the reason why people piss and moan about brake lines. They can't get them to stop leaking. Tighten it a little more, back off. Tighten it a little more, back off. Tighten a little more. In other words, go a little farther, just a smidgen each time. Don't gorilla it. Just back off and then do it one last time, and then you're done. I just realized I didn't put the bolts in it that but the book talked about putting in there. Not that would really matter a whole lot, but I just got to remove it anyway, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, I got my, using my tool there, the clutch tool to hold my bearing there in place while we get this thing situated. Not sure how well this is going to go, actually. Let's see. You can do it. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now you got to hold this thing here with this hand. Hold that over there with that hand. Careful. All right, we're going to use our little camera here to get up in here and just see what we see. As you can tell, the hydraulic bearing, if I can twist this around, has already been started to be compressed. And you can see the middle part of it, which is what you would expect. It goes inside the center hole there where the splines do not extend. And you see our clutch tool sticking through there. So for the purpose of this was to keep it in the middle and to get the center part of the throw-up bearing inserted into the center of the splined area. So we've got that accomplished. So really, all we should have to do is get the transmission over here and start sliding it up in there and turn it a little bit, get it up in the splines and bolt it into place. And it'll happen just like that. All right, let's go ahead and put a few of these bolts in here lightly until we get this engine and bell housing repositioned on the other side of the shop so we can mate it up with the transmission. I'm going to use the car lift to pick up my transmission and mate it up to the engine that way. All right, let's go ahead and put some shifty juice in there. That little old socket wrench there ain't worth nothing. I should have gone to get my impact. I can guarantee you that fluid that's not in there ain't gonna leak out. That was sealed well. Can we just calm down now and put some fluid in the transmission? 3 quarts, you know, around that. So we got the Dexron 3 right here, Valvoline. That's what she's gonna get. These transmissions take the automatic style, don't you know? Always clean your funnel before you use it for putting fluids in a motor. Otherwise, you know, you just shooting yourself in the foot. We have a gallon here, so basically it's just going to come out the hole, right? So that's really all you're going to do. Fill it up until it comes out the hole, make a mess, and you're good. Like that, make a mess like that. Clearly, this is the wrong funnel to use. All right, so I was trying to put the thing all the way in there and get it past the threads, but I'm not sure that's going to work. If you got a bench vise and a heat gun, you can have a curved funnel like mine. How about them apples? The proper fill level is achieved when the oil reaches the fill plug hole, approximately 3 quarts. Well, ain't no approximately to it. It's not 3 quarts. It's more than 3 quarts. We're almost there. I'm gonna put a smidgen more in it. All right, we got it to run out there. The transmission was just a little bit tilted the other way, so I ended up making a mess anyway, but anyway, she's full. All right, let me clean this mess up and move on. All right, that should be more than sufficient. I think we're about ready to try to mount this thing up. What do you think? All right, we're back. Time to recommence. We got the old transmission mount here, don't you know? I think, let's see, yeah. Okay, here we go. These 2 holes here, go 2 holes up there. And this goes here and here like that. So. Let's see. Got a little old versus new action going on. Oh, there we go. How about that? Let's see. Maybe we need a hammer. All right, Mr. Speedometer cable. You're gonna have to just, it's not your turn yet. Stay out of my way. Had to go find my hardware, and then of course it was in a greasy bag because I hadn't gotten around to cleaning it up yet. And I had it soaking in some mineral spirits, and then we got it on the wire wheel and got it cleaned up. All right, now, hopefully the other 2 will line up. Let's see, I need a place to keep my hammer. That'll work. It's a little off. I'm gonna have to do some things. It's, you know, I don't, I don't question the quality of this bracket. I question the quality of the car, so. All right, let me pull this off of here and do a little hammer tweaking, and we'll see what we can do here. If you don't have one of these in your toolbox, I recommend it. Good for lining things up. I didn't have my microphone on me, did I? There we go. Well, fine. You just go over there for a little bit. I'll be over there shortly. The heads get a flat. The nuts get a lock. And everything is good. Cat hair. All right, let me get a ratchet. We'll tighten that up. Yeah, I can tell right now that bracket's a little crooked, like that. You know, this end's lower. At least my eyes tell me that. So, but then again, this is the rubber isolator is mounting to here. So how crucial that is, I'm not sure. Probably not a big deal at all. All right, let's move on. Look at there. Little tap, 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 got it all nice. Yeah, we're straight now. All right, so next thing we need to do is remove the shifter boot, the rubber thing that goes around the shifter, you know, don't you know? 5/16 self-tappers. Not very sophisticated, but you know, just going into sheet metal there. Well, no, shows what I know. Corvettes are made out of fiberglass, you moron. But there's got to be some metal in there somewhere, I reckon. I'm gonna take next weekend off. I'm gonna go play some golf. Guaranteed. All right, let's see what else we got here. Is that all? I know it's got a couple of clips over here on the left-hand side. I know you can't see anything, but you know, it'll be all right. Let's see. That looks like a rubber gasket or maybe some sealant. I need a screwdriver. All right, got a little screwdriver here. Come on out of there. There we go. There you go. Shifter boot, not a big deal. I believe there was an option to buy a new one from Silver Sport, but I elected to not do that. I was thinking this was leather for some reason. There is a leather one. I think it's back there. Anyway, you got two hooks right there, hooks underneath the car, and then this screws in. And this rubber is really in excellent shape. I see no reason to replace that at all. All right, so now we have plenty of room to finagle this thing. Once we get the transmission in place, we can see what we're doing through the hole here, and we can, you know, manipulate things and get to things. So that'll be nice with the installation. So, all right, let's move on with the next step. What that is, I have no idea. Yeah, so I forgot that the leather boot thing was basically attached to the console. So actually, I think it's put on there with tape. But anyway, there it is right there. All right, so here we go. We're starting off here. It says step D, install new equipment. I wrote start here because, you know, to let myself know where to start. So let's start. Removing the engine and transmission as a unit from a vehicle and reinstalling them as a unit is the best way, basically is what they're saying. First step, put the transmission into reverse. I already did that. I bolted up the shifter there and moved it into reverse. And let's says remove the two screws off of the dust cover. That's the dust cover. A couple of Phillips heads down below. We'll put them in our bag of parts here. This dust cover is actually not shown in the directions, which was a minor source of confusion for about 10 seconds. And then I got my head out of my butt, and then, you know, it was all right. Remove the two small socket head bolts from the shift link under the tower and remove the clamp from the horizontal shifter link. And I'm talking about those two hex-headed bolts right there. Let me get a thing, hold up. Well, I don't know if they're metric or what. Let's, I got the SAE set here. Let's try that. Yep, that works. And those have a little lock washer on them, so don't you guys, you know, don't let me forget that. All right, this is a clamp. We're removing a clamp. Remove the clamp from horizontal shifter link. Okay. Interesting. So there's a, there we go, there's a little bushing inside there. And that pivots down a little bit. There we go, a little eyeball on what we're doing there. Did it actually say to remove? I'm being hypercritical, by the way, because I happen to know a little something about procedural documentation. Remove two dust. Did it say, it did not actually say remove the rubber boot, I don't think. We'll let them slide on that one. I may have misread it, but I don't think it did. So we've got two hex bolts up here. So it says remove shift tower socket head bolts and remove shift tower noting or marking orientation for reassembly. That's a good tip. Remove it completely from the shift tower base plate and horizontal shift link. So what I'm going to do is take a couple of photographs of this situation and put this in the bag. I don't want to lose that. Is that a 1/4 inch? Yes. There you go. That's what they wanted you to do, was basically take the shifter off of the transmission. This little thing here down below, and there's a clamp that goes around it and grabs onto the ball and, you know, does all the movement and everything. Anyway, news to me because I've never done this. So to ease the installation, you may want to remove shift tower base plate, shipping bolts, and remove the base plate. These parts will be reinstalled in step 17. I'm assuming this is the base plate right here. And it actually shows me a picture of a guy doing that, removing it. All right, those are metric. It's okay to have, woo! It's okay not to do that. Try again. It's okay to have mixed fasteners. I'm used to that. I cut my teeth on 80s cars and they all had a mixed fasteners, so no big deal. 80s cars in this country had both metric and SAE. SAE is what we call it here, Society for Automotive Engineers. But in over, you know, across the pond, they call it Imperial. Sounds more sophisticated, don't you know? But some of those Imperial units are a little different. Like gallons. Well, you guys already know this. That, you know, the Imperial gallon's bigger than the US gallon. So if you get some guy from the UK that says, oh, my car gets 30 miles a gallon. Now, that don't mean a whole lot, not to me. Because his gallons are bigger by a lot. So it means the car probably gets like, I don't know, 22 or something like that. You guys can look it up and do the math. Anyway, I just made a guess. Anyway, there's the shifter linkage, the base plate. And this is kind of what I was anticipating. I was anticipating to be, you know, to see some exposed parts in there. You know, and so basically that means what I'm going to have to do is before we put this in the car, I'm going to wrap this in that cellophane plastic like I did for the engine to keep debris out of this. And then once we get it in the car, we can just easily take that plastic off and then reinstall the all these bits and pieces while this thing is underneath the vehicle. Anyway, all right, we're back. It is now, I don't know, days, weeks later. So we got the engine, made it up to the transmission. Ended up getting this little roll around transmission jack from Harbor Freight. Works really well, actually. Got these nice, soft, big wheels, and it rolls around real nicely. And you can make it go up and down with a ratchet. Worked out really well. I've read a lot of guys on forums having, you know, a lot of struggles to get the input shaft into the pilot bearing. What is the main problem? It is the precise fit. First off, I tried to use one of those plastic clutch tools. That was a fail. And then I went and got a Lyle universal tool. Has different sizes to go in different pilot bushings. It's 55500. It's a pretty good tool. Bottom line is I can always get down to about 1/4 of an inch. I couldn't get past that 1/4 of an inch because it wasn't getting past the lip of the pilot bearing. So this is a pretty good tool, this Lyle tool, but ultimately the tool that I used to align the clutch was the transmission itself. The bell housing was off of the engine. I loosened the clutch and then I used the transmission itself, got it perfectly centered, got it perfectly straight up and down with the engine. They're both in the same plane, they're both vertical, got everything lined up and got this thing inserted all the way up in there and used that to align the clutch. I didn't use the tool, I used the transmission to align the clutch. Then I tightened the clutch bolts down while the transmission was still engaged. and then I removed the transmission, and that was the tool, quote unquote, that I used to align the clutch. If you are having a problem getting one of these transmissions mated up to your classic car engine and you cannot get the input shaft into the pilot bearing, I would highly recommend taking the bell housing and putting it on loosely. Don't tighten it down. With the transmission disconnected from the engine, take this bell housing and just slip it over the dowel pins. Just slip it a little bit, right? And then get a couple of bolts started, and your bell housing is about, I don't know, half an inch away from the engine. Now, make sure that your engine is level to the ground. In other words, take the face of the bell housing, and I've been using this little level here, and I would, make sure that it's straight up and down. And consequently, I put the transmission on the little stand, and I used a little piece of wood, and I made sure that it was straight up and down level. You put the level right up there, right? So that we know that they're on the same plane. They don't go, they're not pointing like this or like this or like this, or like they're going straight, you know what I'm saying? But once you start to slide the transmission up into the bell housing, you get this guy fully seated against the bell housing. And then you take your bell housing and you move it back just a little bit, and then you move the transmission along with it. And then move the bell housing a little more, and then move the transmission along with it. And then finally you'll get this thing seated fully into place. Now, keeping in mind, I've got a hydraulic throwout bearing here. That comes into play as well. My particular bell housing is not really designed for that. It doesn't have the little groove to accommodate it per the instructions. So it's kind of a wrestling affair of keeping things straight as you got to hold your mouth just right when you do all this stuff. The hydraulic throwout bearing complicates things because at its resting point it's actually in a compressed state. And also I've got a 1/4 inch spacer in between here, which was necessary according to the instructions to get my hydraulic throwout bearing in the proper resting state for proper operation. You can reference the SST manual in that regard. So really the main thing in all of this is don't tighten your bell housing down. Leave it loose when you get ready to mount your transmission, okay? I have read half a dozen forums online. Got Ford, AMC, Chevy, Chrysler, same story every time. I've got a 1/4 inch down, I cannot get past it. I've wrestled with it for a week, it will not work. I've read the same story over and over and over again. The bell housing. They've tightened the bell housing to the engine. And you've got the throwout bearing is come into play. You've got the clutch is immobile, right? There's no way to loosen the clutch because it's a hydraulic one. You can't, it's not like you can get somebody to press the clutch, right? Because there's a flange on the end of the transmission that's got to go up in the hole on the bell housing, okay? And because of that precision fitment, because of the precision fitment of the transmission going into the splines on the clutch, and because of the precision fitment of the pilot bearing, this particular pilot bearing doesn't have a beveled or a chamfered edge. It's very precise. So all those things come together to make for a very finicky mating of this TKX Tremec to the back of whatever engine you're trying to bolt it to. Anyway, so 30 foot-pounds on the bell housing bolts, 30 foot-pounds on the clutch bolts, 50 foot-pounds on these bolts here, taking this transmission and tightening it down to the bell housing. This thing's old, it's 46 years old. I kind of wussied out here and went for 45. I'm not going to take them to 50. I don't know why. I just don't feel good about that. Anyway, we're all done here. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start to redress the engine with plug wires and the plug holders, or the plug wire heat shields and things like that. I put the starter on the engine. I'm going to get all the things on the engine that I can get on there before we put this into the car, simply because it'll be a pain to do it while it's in the car. So might as well get the stuff done now and then put it all in the vehicle. So enough about all that. I just wanted to let you guys know where I've been and what I've been doing. Oh, and well, I did take a vacation and played some golf in between there as well. So, all right, more later. I'll be back here shortly. All right. We're going to go ahead and move this thing back over there near the front of the car. I had it over here because I was going to use the lift arm of the car lift to raise the transmission, and none of that worked out right. I tried like half a dozen things to get that transmission mounted up here, but ultimately you need a little transmission jack. If you don't have one and you're going to do this, go buy the little roll around transmission jack. Just do it now, okay? Don't cheap out, because anything else won't work. All right, unless you just hold your mouth just right, and it's a real hassle. Okay, so that's the reason I had it over here, because it didn't have a room over there, and blah, 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 you get it. Anyways, let's move this thing back to where it was. Ooh, she's rolling nice. She was rolling nice. Which one of you rascals is not thinking about playing? Come on. There we go. Now you're with it. Ooh, I'm putting a lot of faith in these hooks I bought at Lowe's. Said they could hold up like, I don't know how many tons. It was a lot though. All right, I reckon that's good enough for right now. Let's go ahead and get the rest of the spark plug heat shields on, and the starter and the inspection cover. Let's go ahead and do that now, so we don't have to do it later. One thing I kind of was thinking about was maybe removing this fuel pump here. I'm not too sure I'm gonna have room. I might have to take some measurements. I just wanted to put everything on there so I didn't have to do it later, because putting a fuel pump on this car, you know, with the engine in, is a hassle. So anyway, all right, well, I'll make a decision on that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and get this cover on here. This is our inspection cover. And I called myself saying this, oh, it's just, you know, just slip it right over there. It's got these little flanges here. Now I got to remember where those go. God dog it. Do they go on the back flange of that oil pan or something? I don't know. Let's see here. You know what would be funny is if I had to take the oil pan off to put this on. That would be hilarious. All right, those little flanges there, they go behind the oil pan flange. And that slips up inside the back behind the motor. Okay. Crisis averted. Let's get some bolts in there. How about that? One little bolt, two little bolts. All right, let me put the other two on the other side. I'll be right back. All right, just snug them up. Got star locks and they're 5/16, so they don't need a whole lot. All right, so let's go ahead and get our starter on next. Yeah, let's see. Been a while. I ain't gonna lie, it's been a while since I put this starter on here. I got this bag here. What does it say? Passenger side ground cable, spark plug conduits, and starter bolt. Well, we're just down to the ground cable bolt and the starter bolts. How about that? We've used all the other hardware somewhere else, I reckon. Are these the same length? Yeah, good. There's no guessing involved there. Well, gee whiz, all I need now is a starter. All right, I'll be right back. Let me go over here and get the starter. It's one of those high torque racing starters. I probably told you this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. The reason why I replaced the starter and went with this was an error on my part back in the day. A long time ago, the distributor mechanical advance became stuck, rusted, gummed up in a very advanced state, and the engine would barely crank. I thought something was wrong with the starter. And I put a couple of different reman stock starters on it, and I thought, oh, those things are crap. So I went and bought this thing, and by the way, this daggum starter will crank the living dickens out of this engine, because this thing is really powerful. But the problem lingered. Eventually, I took it to a mechanic who knew something about distributors. This is like 20 years ago, okay? At the time, I didn't really know a lot about distributors. So he's like, yeah, come here, let me show you something. And after he took it apart, he flicked that mechanical advance. He goes, he grabbed one off the bench that he had. It was good in his shop, you know, and he flicked it and went flick, flick, flick. And he said, you see how those springs sling back right there? That's the way it's supposed to work. Now look at yours. He went, and they just stuck there. So basically, I just lubed it up with some WD-40 and everything was fine after that. But then I sent it off to Paramount Distributor. repair in up in Michigan, but I talked about that fellow before. He doesn't do that work anymore anyway. I was just so impressed with the work that he did. I was just so amazed by it, and I'm not sure if he's still in business today, but I think at the time he was still restoring distributor checking machines, and he put the distributor on the machine, spinning around and recurve it and all that jazz. So Mark, if you're out there, buddy, kudos to you. Thank you so much. Mark Saunders, Paramount Distributors. You can probably Google that. Give the man some business. How's this work? All right. Uh-oh, dropped my lock washer. Let's see. No, it won't work like that. Gotta have the wires poking in. I had it upside down. Oh boy, this is gonna be a long day. And consequently, there was no shims on this starter. I don't see the need to start now. Let's try again. I'm in an awkward position here, so quit making excuses, Harris. I'm just putting the starter on the engine. Holy cow, how difficult can you make it? All right, I think we about got it here. Had my bolt in the wrong hole. There's 4 holes on the starter. Depending on what kind of motor you're putting it on, I reckon had it in the wrong one. I think up next we're going to go ahead and finish up these spark plug wire heat shields, and hopefully that won't impede our progress too much when we put this engine down in the car. I had to trim this one off a little bit because of the headers, and I've got it all painted up here too, so it should look pretty good when we're done. All right, I'm gonna put the other 2 shields on the other side of the motor. I'll be right back. All right, so we're gonna backtrack a little bit. Get our spark plug wires on. Yes, they are going to get routed up through the engine mount. If that hurts your feelings, it'll be all right. We got the 2 longest ones. That'll be for number 1 and number 2. We're on number 2 over here. Let's see what we can do here. There we go. You've probably heard stories about guys raising the motor up to do the spark plugs and spark plug wires in an old Corvette. Well, those stories are probably true, but I would rather the plug wires maintain a stock appearance, so that's what I'm doing. If you want to run yours on over the top, then yeah, you know, that's fine. There we go. Just gonna put them on there loosely for now, and we'll tighten everything down here a little bit. All right, let me pull this rubber doohickey out of there for a moment. Let me run the other wire first. All right, I went ahead and ran number 1 and number 4 over there on the other side through the channel. And you know, going to school here, you know, having to review myself and all that kind of jazz. I want to get the right end on there too, you know. This squared off looking end, I reckon that goes on the distributor, and this roundy end, I guess that goes on the plug end. I don't guess it really doesn't matter. They're the same length, but this is a little skinnier, so that would go better on this end, I think. Anyway, hopefully this spark plug wire kit, all the links are, you know, correct and good to go. We're gonna find out though here, because we're about to do number 4. Yeah, it looks like it ought to work. Get this rascal in there. Let's just put it in through the other end, yeah? Could you imagine doing this in the car? I mean, I've done it. I have done this in the car. It was a pain. What you talking about? All right, that's good enough for now. Make sure that wire will get, let's see if I run it through there, get it up there. We're gonna find out. That wire there might be a little touch and go. All right, there we go. Got the plugs tightened in, got the wires run, got these heat shields tightened down, that spark plug conduit underneath there tightened down, got the motor mount tightened down. Have not torqued the starter. Thanks for reminding me, guys. Got the spark plug wire little doohickeys in there like that. That looks pretty tidy, don't you think? And just got it tie wrapped up here like this. Same for the other side. and got the hydraulic line to the throwout bearing tie wrapped up there. Hold that out of the way as well. Only thing now to do before I put this engine in the car is to I want to put some of this accessory stuff back on the engine. As you know, I did a pre-fit on all of this to make sure everything fit together with the headers. So I'm going to go ahead and put these accessory brackets on now. You've seen me do that in a previous video. No reason to watch that again. So let me go ahead and put the stuff on the front of the motor, and then we'll get ready to put this thing back in the car. All right, we're going to go ahead and raise the car up a little bit. We're going to take that wheel off so we can get this cherry picker in there. You know, with these Corvettes, things are a little different. Whoopsie. We're gonna get some new lug nuts. Those things are nasty. All rusted up and everything. All right, let's begin this painstaking little process here. I'll probably speed up the video and see how this goes. Need some elevation. We might have to take the core support out and the AC condenser. What do you think? I don't know. We're gonna find out though. We're gonna give it a try like this, see what happens. All right, that was a disaster. This wouldn't work. I gotta take the core support out. So we'll get these 5/8 inch bolts off here, and they're kinda in a bad location. So I'm gonna take the front air dam off. Awesome, rusted solid. That's gonna be cool. I think I know some bolts that it's gonna get broke off. All right, put her on maximum. Put a little WD-40 on it, and my bolt is now permanently attached to my socket. So, okay, well, at least it worked. Let me do this. Hold up. Well, that ain't been off there since '78, has it? Oh, that hurt. And the bolt broke off. Yep. I don't guess we're going to be using that one anymore. I didn't really want to do this. I didn't want to do this. All right. I think I'll take this one off here, not that one. How about that? And we got a center rod here. Made quick business out of that, didn't we? If I get everything else disconnected, I should be able to just move that way a little bit and then slide it down. What do you think? I'm looking for some tips here, people. Come on now. I ain't never done this. Owned the car since '97. I ain't never done this. All right, let's see if we can get this core support out of here. Is that a 1/2 inch? Probably not. Could be metric. All right, that's one. All right, to get to the other bolt, this one is in the way. So you guys remember that the longer one goes to the hinge up here. All right, let me do the other side too. And we'll get the topping off now. All right, let me go do the other side. All right, let's see. Yeah, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. I'll be here a couple minutes. I'll be right back. I tell you what, about half my tools are sitting in my tool bag up in the motorhome. I ain't got them back out yet. I pack up a lot of tools when I take the motorhome on vacation. All right, let me get this other bolt out of the bottom on the other side. I'll be right back. All right, I think, so the condenser is not actually bolted to this core support. It's got a bracket and it slips over it, but it's not actually bolted to it. So we're hanging right here by a wing and a prayer. We should be able to do that. I saw a fella in Canada on a video earlier working on his, and he said this was a really tight fit. I think it's because of the, maybe it's the foam insulation or something. Where's my hat? We'll get it though, we're getting there. We're gonna get this core support out if it hair lips everybody on Bear Creek or something. So the condenser is basically just following suit, and it is just connected by the lines. So to keep from having lots of carnage, I was kind of halfway debating on replacing this condenser anyway, because, well, it's, you know, 46 years old. I suppose the ones they make now are more efficient. I have no idea. So, okay, let me wrestle with this. I think I may lower the car and then suspend the condenser with some string so it doesn't fall, and then pull this out. I think I'm gonna do that. All right, I got my condenser held up with some zip ties. I always called them tie wraps. I don't know why. I guess that's what they called them in the military. I don't know. I think tie wrap is a brand name. What do you guys call them? You call them zip ties or tie wraps? I know the popular term is zip ties. David Freiberger popularized that. Zip tie drag races. In other words, don't fix a car properly, just drive a piece of shit and race that. Let's see, should we just go, there's a ground cable on the bottom of the core support. If I want to go down, I've got to disconnect that first. This thing seems to want to go down. I'm going to raise the car and do it that way. All right. Get this little ground cable off of here. I wonder what in the world told them to say, you know, we need a ground, but it needs to be out of sight, man. I mean, it needs to be somewhere where if it breaks, they won't have a clue where that ground is. And they'll have to bring it back to the dealer. I know what they were thinking. We'll put that little self-tapper way out of sight. Actually, we could probably just do it this way and just kind of just leave it hanging low and then put the engine in. Ow. Hell, it may not go out the bottom. All right, if your classic Corvette air conditioner has a history of, you know, basically not working, like this one, you see all that debris on this fitting going to the condenser? And I decided, well, you know, I might as well go ahead and remove the condenser. And I decided to go ahead and, you know, put a wrench on these fittings here. This is what I found. Nobody's ever touched this condenser during the life of the car. It was just loose, man. It's just, you know, something to check for you guys. So if your old Corvette's AC system isn't working all that well, you know what? Check the hoses. You never know what you might find. All right, I bet I can get that motor in there now. All right, so I got the core support out of here and the AC condenser along with it. So the AC condenser was basically finger tight on the lower high pressure line. That skinny one right there, I think that's the high pressure. And the rest just spun in my, I was just astounded to find that. Actually, I'm glad That took away the mystery. My air conditioner just never worked well. It leaked all the time. I never really did go through a lot of analysis to diagnose it properly. But I'm glad I went through this exercise because I now know probably that stupid thing had been leaking for, decades. So I'm glad we did this. The core support's in really good shape. Nothing wrong with it. Only thing, it just needs a little cleanup and maybe a coat of paint and some new foam sealant around it. So probably order some of that from Top Flight Automotive. The core support, I've seen people struggle with this thing. The way it comes in and out of here is basically from the top. Once you get everything disconnected, it's going to slide up, and it's not going to slide up anymore. You can only go a little ways, and then you have to pivot it and slide it this way, and that works really well, actually. There's a couple of things you have to keep in mind. They've got some of this stuff stapled to the edge, and that sort of really holds it in there tightly, so I'll have to re-staple that. Yeah, there's another piece right over there. So anyway, I'm glad we went through this exercise. What does that mean now? That means, oh my goodness, I probably ought to do a little cleanup work before I put this engine in here. I really do not want to detail this engine bay. I don't want to do that. Just drawing the line there. There's no reason in it. All this stuff over here is original, And I don't want to take all that mess off and detail that, mostly because I just don't want to do it. The more that I think about it, the more I think I'm just going to do a little vacuum, maybe a little dusting, because you never see this. You cannot see any of this stuff when the engine's in the car. So, who cares? All right, let's do a minor cleanup, and let's get the motor back in the Corvette. All right, take two. I've got all that junk out of the way, got it cleaned up a little bit. Let's see if we can get this motor in there now. That's Southern talk for let's install an engine. How about that? All right. So I've got the hoist over as far as I can get it, but when we lower it, it's going to go down some more that way, so it should be okay. So I'm going to lower it a little bit, and we'll move it around, and we'll get it. Got a piece of rope on the bottom of the hoist there to pull it back this way a little bit. Slowly but surely. Now I'm going to tilt the transmission down some. Ooh, man, that moves a lot nicer after I greased it up. Now we've got to figure out how to move it to the rear of the car. I guess I'll push on it from with a piece of wood underneath. Since we're going sideways, don't you know? We're not going, you get it. All right, let me get something to push with. Whose idea was it to put the starter on first? Well, that sounds like a great idea. That's just going to be a big old pain in the ass. Ooh, we may not have travel. How far do we have? All right, we're hanging out over the mount. And we're going to come up about 3 or 4 inches there. Let's see, what am I doing? All right, that's over the mount. All right, I may have to yank this oil dipstick tube out and redo it, maybe point it up that way more, because it's, I don't know, we're gonna see what happens here. It's nerve-wracking. Gonna be touch and go here with that dipstick. I'll probably have to, I just want to get it bolted into the car, and I can take the dipstick out later and redo it. I just don't want to have to do it now, We should be able to just do that. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there. The transmission mount is, well, it's mounting, so it's doing the thing. Man, I'm glad I put those plug wires on before. There's no room back there. It's ridiculous. Are we binding up on anything? I think we got to go that way a little bit. Yeah, we're going to be okay with the dipstick. I'll have to redo it. I got about 1 inch clearance. I planned that, don't you know? All right, yeah, I think we just pull it this way a little bit. We can get the bolts in there. Let's see. These are new motor mounts, so... Ooh, wait a minute. Nope, we got to come up a little bit. I lowered it down too much. Ha ha! All right, where's my bolts? Here they are. Conveniently placed where I need them to be. This has got a lock nut on it, and there's a washer there, so I don't know how close we are. We're pretty close. All right, 1 bolt started. I'm gonna put the nut right there. Hopefully the other one will be as easy. This got 2 washers on it, and they look like crap. Let's change that. Let me get a different washer for this bolt. You gotta let it down a little bit. That one's a little high. I still have the engine hoist connected, like if it falls, it's gonna do something. You never can tell, it might do something. That's gonna be a problem. All right, transmission wasn't, it was cockeyed, don't you know? That's what that's all about. We were cockeyed as opposed to caca, which is completely different. Hey, look at that, the bolt line's up. Ha ha! I even got to raise it up a little bit. Let's try that. All right, all the pressure is off of the engine now. All that cranking on that engine tilt thing yesterday, giving my left wrist some fits there. That's the reason I'm wearing that. Man, it's almost there. The transmission mount is on the mount, and we got 1 bolt in this mount here. So yeah, let's just put it in the air and see if we can't get underneath there and fix this thing up. All right, let me go ahead and disconnect this hoist. Man, that's a momentous occasion, don't you think? How about can I get a like for this video for taking the hoist off? I know it seems trivial, but you know. Okay, how we do this? Hey, look at that. Got these quick release things here. Thankfully, they didn't quick release, you know, when the engine was in the air. I gotta get this AC hose out of here. But there's a little panel down below. Bye! That you can take out of the way, and you can undo that hose from below. So anyway, I'm not worried about that. And we were just a little bit off on our transmission mount. There we go, dead nut center. Huh, I wonder if that helped us back here. It's amazing how that works. There we go. Got that nut on there. Finger tight. I'll tighten it down later. And the other nut is on top of the manifold. And I'll lower the car and take care of that here in a little bit. But, whew, I think that's where I'm gonna leave it, folks. I accomplished this weekend what I wanted to accomplish, and that was getting this engine in this old Corvette. So I'll probably spend the rest of the afternoon tinkering around. I'll tighten up these motor mounts, and I'll go ahead and get the bolts in the back of the transmission over there, just mundane stuff, and just get it locked in, don't you know. But I think I'm gonna leave it right here, folks. It's been a heck of a week. I tell you what, I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy restoring, driving, and taking care of your classic C3 Corvette.